types of ossification. The first type of ossification is intramembranous ossification. Okay, it starts in the 8th week of fetus development, and it can also happen in adults as well, as when you weightlift or put any sort of stress on your body, like when you horseback ride. Horseback riders in the 1900s developed plates on the inside of the legs to reduce friction when they rode horses. And the way this happens is that the mesenchymal cells, they differentiate into osteoblasts within the tissue near the bone. Okay, so there are 3 steps to intermembranous ossification. A mesenchymal tissue gets engaged in a certain activity again and again, and then they differentiate into osteoblasts, which they form into clusters, and then they start secreting an organic component of bone matrix, which then starts to materialize. Okay. The second step, the bone grows away from the osteoblasts, so like the clusters, and then veins start to come along with the bone and grow into the bone, so it can grow faster and longer. Okay. And that epicenter, the epicenter of with all the osteoblasts, that is called the ossification center. Step 3. More ossifications get created as the bone gets bigger, and then like spongy bone and compact bone take their shape. Okay, the endocrinatal ossification. It starts to form bone out of hyaline cartilage. When you start in the fetus, like your bones aren't even hard, they're like made out of cartilage when they first start. The 7 steps to endocrinatal ossification. Okay. The cartilage cells get bigger as in the middle of the bone, but there's no nutrients there, so they can't grow or anything, so all the cartilage cells die in the center of the bone. Okay, step 2. Cells start differentiating into osteoblasts, and the bone starts getting bigger because osteoblasts, they create bone through a process called osteogenesis. And they form a layer around the bone, which starts to form the periosteum and the compact bone. Okay, step 3. The blood starts going in larger quantity to the periosteum, which makes the bone grow more, and it maintains the bone as well. And then capillaries and osteoblasts start making their way to the center of the bone. There they meet with the dead cartilage cells, and then they form the sponge bone out of the dead cartilage cells. Step 4 is the osteoclasts go into the center of the bone and start to erode the sponge bone on the inside that the osteoblast just created, and they form the medullary cavity. That's the cavity on the inside of the bone. Okay, step 5. The cartilage and osteoblasts go to the 2 epiphyses, yeah, the 2 epiphyses, and they start to form bone and calcify the 2 epiphyses on the end. Step 6, the 2 epiphysi fill with sponge bone, and then from the original cartilage, when the bones just started out of the cartilage, form the top of the bone, and that prevents bone on bone, like in your joints. There's cartilage between the diaphysis and the epiphysis in the metaphysis, and that's the neck of the bone. And that doesn't go away throughout bone growth. It stays there. Step 7, after the bone reaches full maturity, the epiphyseal cartilage grows smaller and smaller until it completely disappears. So let's move on. Bone increase during development. The 6 steps to bone development. Okay, the first step is On the side of a bone, there's a vein running along it, and then there are two ridges beside it, and that's step 1. Step 2 is the bone starts to close over the vein and starts forming more bone. And step 3 is when the bone completely covers over it and fuses together with the vein in the middle of the two bones, like of the bone enclosing around it. And then step 4 is it completely closing over it and the bone closing in around the vein. Step 5 is the bone increases in diameter because it's getting more blood flow and nutrients to it. And step 6, a new bone is formed, and then it repeats the process over again. Blood and lymphatic supply formation. The nutrients that you get from arteries and veins and how it'll work with your bones. The blood vessels enter the bones at the beginning stages of endocrinatal ossification, which is when it's just hyaline cartilage. And there's usually only one vein and one artery to each bone, but there are some exceptions, like for really big bones like your femur and your humerus. And what they do is bring nutrients and minerals to your bones and keep them healthy. Metaphyseal vessels. The metaphyseal vessels supply blood to the epiphyseal cartilage, which is in the metaphyse. Okay. Epiphyseal vessels. Epiphyseal vessels supply blood to the two epiphyses, and they have many sub canals that carry blood throughout the entire epiphyse. Periosteal vessels. Periosteal vessels carry blood to the periosteum, which keeps that full of nutrients and keeps the compound bone healthy. Bone growth factors. Normal bone growth and proper nutrition. If you have a good balanced diet and have a high amounts of calcium and phosphate salts and other ions, that means your bones will stay strong due to your diet. Okay, vitamins. Vitamins are also another helpful and essential part of your diet. Vitamin A, C, and D, but D is the most important of those three because it aids in absorption and transportation of calcium and phosphate salts, which are essential in bone growth. Okay. Parathyroid and growth hormones. Parathyroid hormones aid in calcium absorption in the intestines, and they also stimulate osteoblast and osteoclast activity. Growth hormone is pretty much self-explanatory. The name explains it. It just aids in growth in puberty.